When we decided to vacate our home, we had actually just completed tests for the wind farm in February 2009. Our house was making all these different noises, chiming noises, buzzing noises, and it was all documented for the Ministry of Environment as well as for the wind farm, and everything was submitted. And as we continued on, we had David Calling, a consultant, come in, and he was going to do some measurements, and it was on that Easter weekend in 2009. And he said, "You shouldn't be here." When he came in, he said, "You shouldn't be there." And we knew that too, because we couldn't sleep. None of us felt good. We never were rested, and it was miserable. We were always at each other's backs.
He confirmed what we already
knew.
thought.
What we knew.
Yeah.
So, it was, it was time to go. So we packed up our daughter, who was finishing grade 12, and we were actually fortunate because she only had a few weeks of school left to be disrupted. And we moved her into my sister's in Orangeville. So she couldn't have her home, but she could at least continue on in the school she was going and be with her friends. And she took our family dog, and off they went for the last, 6 weeks of school, basically. It was a challenge, for sure, but it really was the only thing we could do. It truly was.
Okay. Can you discuss the events that took place once you decided to vacate your home?
For the longest time after we left, we wrote letters. We talked to the ministry. We wrote all the government people, health people, and it went in. Later on, David Calling actually came back, and he decided to do some testing, but it wasn't for a while. And he told us that when he came in that April, that he couldn't help us. He just could tell us, but he couldn't help us. So in 2011, in August, that's when our neighbor was insistent and called the Ministry of Environment every single day. And we finally had a meeting with the Ministry of Environment, and they led us to believe they were going to help us. And David had captured some results, and we submitted them, and we submitted everything, and it was almost like we were working towards a goal to get our house back, or to get some sort of satisfaction resolution to have a home, actually, because we lived with my mom, and she was 20 minutes away. We still had our horses, and it was brutal leaving them every night in everything that was going on. So, I don't know that you could actually have a more emotional time, because there was bitterness, there was hate, there was lost, anger, just and you how did this happen to our family? How did our family become nothing? That people could just walk in and do whatever the hell they wanted, and these corporations could just dictate, what was going on. But we had to leave. And we were better, like our health was better once we left. And we were actually able to cope a little better, because we were getting the sleep that we needed, and because we actually believed that they were helping us find a solution and find the reason for what was going on, basically.
Can you discuss the effects vacating your home had on your family? No, they're big questions.
Huge questions.
I think in some ways it tore us apart, but in other ways it kind of brought us together again, or made us closer. Just because we're all in the same boat, going through the same misery and the frustration of it, the disbelief that things like this can happen to people and nobody cares. Nobody does anything. Nobody listens. The ministry leads you on to believe that they're going to help you, and then they just lead you on and leave you there on your own.
I guess being homeless was a bit of a challenge, but we did get to spend a few years with my mom, and my dad was gone by then, so we were able to participate more in her life than we normally would have, because she was stuck with us every day, kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, I had a sibling who did have a turbine. That was extremely hard, listening to him talk about any monies and whether it was working well that week or not. I mean, it was... I don't know that he realized as his turbine turned, our farm was more contaminated and saturated with crap from what was going on down the road. So, yeah, I don't know. I think people were, and still are, family. We don't want to talk politics with anybody. We don't care what your opinion is on anybody, and we will leave the room. If you want to talk about politics, the Liberals, for sure, we don't want anything to do with that, because as we left our home and tried to kind of get our life back together, as we could only get it back together in the evenings, we spent so much time and energy fighting this that when we went out, you just tried to pretend you were normal, even though, you weren't, and you knew that.
Okay. You've spoken a little bit about telling people about these events. You've spoken about the Emma Week. Is there others you've spoken with? And if so, can you elaborate?
Yeah. Excuse me. Well, we were at the family doctor, and we have a letter from our family doctor. We have, I don't know, do we have more than one letter from our family doctor? I think we might.
There we go.
We spoke with Dr. Arlene King's office. We actually did participated in a study with the Dufferin Wellington health group on the substation itself. It was supposed to be a 4 to 6 week study. It went on for months, and at the end of the day, any recommendations were moot anyway, because nobody had to follow up. We were led to believe we would meet with Dr. Arlene King. We did not.